What if I told you the entire Bible begins with a story about creation, failure, family drama, betrayal, faith, and the beginning of a nation? That's the book of Genesis. Genesis is the first book of the Bible and sets up nearly every major theme that appears later in Scripture. The word Genesis means beginning, and that's exactly what this book is about. The beginning of the world, humanity, sin, God's covenant with people, and the nation of Israel. Today we'll summarize Genesis in about 8 minutes. Part 1, the creation of the world, an introduction to sin. Genesis opens with one of the most famous lines ever written. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Then God proceeds to create the universe in 6 days and rests on the seventh. Here is a recap of the 7 days. Day 1, light and darkness. Day 2, sky and seas. Day 3, land and plants. Day 4, sun, moon, and stars. Day 5, animals. Day 6, and finally, humans. So on the 6th day, God creates Adam and Eve in His image and places them in the Garden of Eden. Everything is perfect. There's no suffering, death, or sin. However, God gives one command. Do not eat from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Then, a serpent, which is Satan in disguise, tempts Eve. Eve eats the fruit. Adam follows, and sin enters the world. Because of their disobedience, humanity is separated from God. Pain and death begin, and Adam and Eve are expelled from Eden. This moment is called the fall, and it explains why the world is broken. Now we will move to part 2 of this video. Cain, Abel, and the flood. Adam and Eve have children, including Cain and Abel. Abel honors God sincerely, but Cain becomes jealous and murders his brother, the first murder ever. Following these events, violence and corruption spread throughout humanity. Eventually, the world becomes so evil that God decides to send a flood to cleanse the earth. But one man, Noah, finds favor with God. God then tells Noah to build an ark and bring his family and pairs of animals aboard. After Noah starts to sail, God makes rain fall for 40 days and 40 nights, flooding the earth. After the flood ends, Noah sends out birds to find dry land. Finally, the ark rests on dry ground, and God makes a covenant with Noah, symbolized by the rainbow, promising never again to destroy the earth with a flood. Now we move on to part 3 of our video, the Tower of Babel. As humanity grows again, people unite to build a massive tower reaching to heaven, the Tower of Babel. Their goal is pride and self-glorification instead of honoring God. So God confuses their language, causing people to scatter across the earth. This story explains the origin of different languages, nations, and ethnicities. Next, in part 4, we learn about Abraham, the father of Israel. Now the focus shifts to one man, Abraham. God calls Abraham to leave his homeland and promises him 3 things: land, descendants, and a blessing. God says Abraham's descendants will become a great nation and bless the entire world. Even though Abraham and his wife Sarah are extremely old and childless, God promises them a son. After years of waiting, their son Isaac is born. One of the most dramatic moments in Genesis happens when God tests Abraham by asking him to sacrifice his only son Isaac. Abraham obeys, but at the last second God stops him and provides a ram instead. This story becomes a major symbol of faith and trust in God. Next is part 5, Isaac, Jacob, and Esau. Isaac has twin sons, Esau and Jacob. Esau is the older brother, but Jacob tricks him out of his birthright and later deceives their father, Isaac, into giving him the blessing meant for Esau. Jacob flees, and later has a strange encounter where he wrestles with God. Afterward, his name was changed to Israel. Jacob later has 12 sons, who become the ancestors of the 12 tribes of Israel. The 12 tribes are Reuben, Simeon, Levi, Judah, Dan, Naphtali, Gad, Asher, Issachar, Zebulun, Joseph, and Benjamin. Now on to the past part of our video, part 6, Joseph's journey. The final section of Genesis centers on Joseph, Jacob's favorite son. Joseph's brothers are jealous of him, especially because Joseph has dreams suggesting he will one day rule over them. So his brothers put him down a well, then later sell him into slavery in Egypt, and told their father that he was dead. In Egypt, Joseph faces many hardships. First, he becomes a servant then. He is falsely accused of seducing his servant's wife, which leads to his imprisonment. but Joseph has the ability to interpret dreams. Eventually, he interprets Pharaoh's dreams, predicting 7 years of abundance, followed by 7 years of famine. Pharaoh then puts Joseph in charge of preparing Egypt for the famine, making him one of the most powerful men in the land. When the famine strikes, Joseph's brothers travel to Egypt seeking food, not realizing Joseph is the ruler standing before them. After testing them, Joseph forgives his brothers in one of Genesis' most powerful moments. Joseph tells them, "What you meant for evil, God meant for good." The book then ends with Jacob's family settling in Egypt in Joseph's death, setting the stage for the next book of the Bible, Exodus. Now it's time for the recap. The themes of Genesis are God as creator, human sin and brokenness, faith and obedience, God's promises and covenants and forgiveness and redemption. It's a book about beginnings, but also about hope. Despite humanity's repeated failures, God continues working through imperfect people to carry out his glorious plan. And that's Genesis in 8 minutes. From the 6 days of creation to Joseph in Egypt, Genesis lays the foundation for the rest of the Bible. If you enjoyed this summary, consider liking the video and subscribing for more Bible overviews, and make sure to join us next Wednesday for the summary of the book of Exodus.